Hi there, folks. Well, I just got out of seeing Godzilla vs. Kong, like so many other people out on the YouTube sphere, if I hope to get any views for this. And this is written by, or co-written by Max Bornstein, and this is directed by Adam Wingard. Now, let me confess, folks, that I, like many of my generation, easily lapped up all those 60s and 70s Godzilla films. And let me state that my personal Godzilla film is a 1989 one called Godzilla vs. Biolante, one of the more batshit crazy Godzilla films ever put to celluloid. Now, I honestly think to God that the sort of 84 to 95 Godzilla films aren't talked about as much, because let's face it, those are less campy, but they're still undeniably goofy films, although, of course, let's face it, Godzilla, depending on the film or depending on the mood of the month, it can either be the bad guy or the good guy, or depending on the mood, as I said, it could be allegory of whatever flavor is going on with the world at the moment. King Kong, let's face it, is King Kong. And Kong Skull Island was a good film, I believe, looking back on it. And granted, after Godzilla King of the Monsters sort of underperformed, people were so like, oh yes, Godzilla vs. Kong still gonna happen. Well, clearly, yes, they're still planning to make it. And what Godzilla and Kong could not defeat in general happens to be a global-wide pandemic. And so obviously they had to wait until there was appropriate time to release this movie. And now we were thinking to ourselves, okay, people are sort of ready to go back into theaters. Obviously, with certain protections. This thing has made $122 million overseas. Again, this thing runs a skinny hour and 44 minutes because even the screenwriters think to themselves, well, our material is thin, and you'd be right. It's basically King Kong and Godzilla duking it out. Obviously, we have Rebecca Hall, one of the Skarsgårds, and this little girl. And then we have Millie Bobby Brown and obviously Kyle Chandler, and apparently a couple of scenes as Lance Reddick. Clearly there must be some longer cut out there. When a Godzilla film hovers around 90 to an hour and 44 minutes, the material has to be relatively thin. Again, if I was 9 years old, I would think this is the greatest thing in the world. Do I still think it's the greatest thing in the world? Sure, I can't deny myself that. Considering that in the last film, we got a fully realized King Ghidorah, which, quite frankly, that's the one thing I've always wanted to see fully realized. Mother and Rodan, let's face it, okay, you're giving me a giant moth and you're giving me a giant pterodactyl. Here we get, oh yeah, Damien Bashir creating Mechagodzilla. As a person who has laughed up a lot of those Godzilla films, and basically I must say I'm happy to do that, because who doesn't? I've always wanted to see a fully realized CGI, Mechagodzilla. And basically Mechagodzilla here is powered by one of the brains of King Ghidorah, which, quite frankly, is gonna go wrong. And of course it does. And people are like, oh yes, I am Team Godzilla, I'm Team Kong. No, I just want these two monsters to duke it out, and then at the end of the film sort of team up and fight Mechagodzilla, because Mechagodzilla is clearly an eviler threat. Now, a couple of weeks back, I happened to see one of the older Godzilla films, Terror of Mechagodzilla, which happens to be Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla versus a ginormous dinosaur. Could I see that being remade? Sure. I would love to see Godzilla vs. Biolante remade. Also, quite frankly, Rebecca Hall and Millie Bobby Brown don't share scenes, except for like one at the very end of the film. But again, Millie Bobby Brown is like, why is Godzilla attacking us? Because Kong, at least, has some semblance of humanity, and Godzilla is a giant lizard that runs amok every so often. So yeah, folks, what I'm going to say about Godzilla vs. Kong, amazingly enough, because I am in such touch with my 9-year-old self, I'm going to give this a matinee rating. So folks, Godzilla vs. Kong, have you seen this? What you think? Please put everything in the comment box below here, folks. As always, folks, like, comment, subscribe, and enrich yourself with knowledge. I'll see you next time, folks. I'm Michael Richard Richards 2 on Twitter. Yes, hooray.